So there's this game called Dark and Darker. I hate it. I hate it, I hate it, I hate it, I hate everything about it, so why can't I just buy this godforsaken game already? Listen, I'm not gonna hide how much I hate looking at this right now, knowing damn well that I already have and technically could still be playing. I know it's an alpha. I knew going in that it was going to be limited time, but still, this is stupid. I just want to play the dungeon game. So, Dark and Darker. If you haven't heard of it, then it's basically the medieval version of Tarkov. If you have heard of it, then you probably found out through Asmongold. If you didn't, then you're lying. I didn't. I heard of this game through a sheet. No, I'm not going to elaborate. Why do you ask? Stop asking questions. Why are you asking questions? You're not supposed to ask questions. But for real now, Dark and Darker is Tarkov, but the bubonic plague is still a threat. Instead of guns and extraction via helicopter, it's magic and swords with portals that can only take one person at a time. Pretty magical, if not a bit annoying. Now, first, I actually have to hand it to the game. It's probably one of the very few multiplayer games that do melee right. It's much slower and precise than Heretic Slayer's the game too. Your movement is slow and your attacks even slower. You need to be very deliberate with every move. You can't afford to just spam wildly. It's very punishing, which I actually quite enjoy. Now, sure, it doesn't make me feel like the Renaissance version of the Doomslayer. This certainly isn't meant to be a power fantasy, but every hit feels calculated and earned, which you can only credit to how much every hit matters for both you and the enemy. The game has 6 classes, all of which don't really require any introduction. They're all pretty self-explanatory. They all have a set of abilities and weapons that they can and can't use. They're all fun, except Wizard. Wizard isn't fun. The game is still in alpha, so even though every class has a few options on how you want to customize their abilities, it's not very in-depth yet, which makes sense. Like I said, it's in alpha. Everything's still being worked on. Now, every class will start with very weak and basic gear, which leads me to the Tarkov portion of the game. Now, I am sure that the genre has a name, but I think everyone just describes it as a Tarkov-like. So, gear. It means a lot in this game. You can choose your skills and perks, sure, but your raw stats will pretty much be dictated by what you have equipped, which can create issues, but we will touch on that a little bit later. Items come in the form of armor, weapons, potions, valuables, which are dropped by enemies and found in chests. It'll take a few seconds to open everything and to equip items, and the only way to keep everything is to escape with them in your inventory. At which point you can either stash the items for later, sell them, or go into the next match with the items that you already have in hand, giving you a big advantage at the risk of losing everything that you had already earned. Now, not only do I particularly like this both in concept and in practice, it really matters here. In Warzone's DMZ mode, yes, sure, going in with good gear makes a difference, but someone with a handgun can still very plausibly take you down. In here, if you go in fully kitted, it's going to take a lot more than just a few early pot shots to take you down. Plus, you're already going to be intimidating. Most people probably won't even engage unless they have a numbers advantage or already see you fighting something. You just have a massive advantage. Now, normally I wouldn't be on board with this kind of thing if it weren't for how hard it is. 1, you need to get to that point where you're geared up, and 2, you need to keep it that way. You are at an advantage, but that doesn't mean you're necessarily safe. You are still at risk at losing everything that you walked in with. You may be powerful, but you also have much more to lose. Outside of that, you can also just stash your items, which I like. It makes the organizer goblin part of my brain happy. I only wish that gold didn't take up a slot in the bank. There are pouches to save space, but still. I also would like more bank space to be purchasable, even if it does get expensive. Now that we are on the topic, I do want to raise a concern with the cash shop. Do be careful with this. There are skeleton skins that look identical to the NPC skeletons, and I do think that that could be used to trick players. It's not really a big thing, just something I would like the devs to keep in mind. In the game, there are currently 2 maps and 3 game modes: solo queue with the Goblin Caves, and trios with generic fantasy dungeon, with a pay-to-enter high-stakes mode. None of it is procedurally generated. The map is set in stone and does not change. I just want to point that out. I thought it was at first, but it's not, and it's nice not to have everything randomized. In fact, I think that if you wanted to have something randomized, I think maybe like the small little secret areas that aren't really on the map, I think that there could be like 100 or so areas where a secret could be, and then just pick like 20 of them per match. If you did want to put a random element on there, I would say that would probably be the best way to go about it. Now, I like this game. I'm not particularly good at it, but I like it, and I can't wait to see more of it. But I did see something on the Steam discussion board that made me think. The title basically was, I will buy this game if there's a PvE only mode. Now, listen, I get it. I'm not very good at this game, and I had seemingly won games get stomped by others, as players are going to be the biggest threat. They're people, not robots. They don't have a pattern. I do understand the want to have a more lax game mode without that threat present, but I don't think that's what you want. Before you click away or make an angry comment, I get why you would want that. For a bit, I wanted that too. Seeing a fully kitted out player join the lobby only to have them actively seek out people who are busy, I get that. It happened to me and it sucks, but I would be lying if I said that didn't make the game more tense. It makes every escape or small victory feel bigger than it actually is because the danger was there. Plus, if you do manage to take down the overgeared player, then guess what? All of that belongs to you now. The way the game works does make it possible for someone to be more toxic and just fight those underneath them. But I have to ask, if there was a PvE mode, then what incentive would people have to do PvP casually? In that case, PvP would just turn into a sweat fest. Plus, then people would only play PvP if they were already kitted out. And at that point, everyone would be out to get you anyway. Most of the time, when I see another player, we just kinda avoid each other. Or do the universal gamer symbol of peace, crouching up and down repeatedly. Now, don't take this as a way for me to gatekeep. That's not what I'm trying to do. I just feel that having the ever-looming threat of other players is part of why the game feels tense to play. You can't predict what other people are going to do, and if predictability isn't present, then you'll just recognize patterns, and wouldn't that kinda get a bit repetitive and dull after a while? Now, mind you, that doesn't mean that I wouldn't like a more PvE-centered way to play. I was thinking something like Gambit, where it is more PvE-centric, but there is always the threat of other players. I don't have any idea how that would work, or if it would be any fun, but I do feel like it could be discussed more. I do think, though, if you were going to remove the players from the equation, you would have to instead substitute that danger of other players with something much harder to deal with. I don't know how they would do that, but if you were going to do that, I feel like that would be something you would have to put in to prevent the game from just being easy, and from the PvE mode just being used to grind better gear for PvP. Listen, I like this game, and I want more of it, and I'm mad that it's still in alpha. I'm impatient. Why won't you just take my money already? I want to play the dungeon game. But with all that, I've been Koji presenting to you Dark and Darker. If you liked the video, then leave a like. If you want to see more, then hit the subscribe button. And if you've already tried the alpha for yourself, then tell me how it went for you. Go enjoy the rest of your day. Go watch my other videos. They are peak entertainment.